Anybody got anything? Connor and I just got off the phone a minute ago. Wanted to see what else everybody is up to working on. What anybody got some big projects that they're in the pipeline on?
Hey, Nolan, this is Jared. I just sent over an email to you and Zane with some
Awesome.
documents. And I could have a signed LOI today, but I wanted to review a few things with you two. Um, but essentially, the LOI reflects the seller's counteroffer, and I'm somewhat comfortable with most of it, but wanted to bounce it off of you and Zane at some point in the near future.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we can, I mean, honestly, I told Connor a minute ago too, we can review it live if you like, Jared. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I have no problem going over it,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
um, as
happy to walk you through it.
get other people's opinions too. Anybody else? What else? And we can do that as we go on today. What? Anybody else working on anything? Connor, I know you got something on your pipe in your pipeline, or maybe not. Um, Anybody else working on anything? I don't
Well,
want to put you on the spot. Connor, I'm just saying.
I don't know if you were asking me to get started or like you were waiting for other people to talk. My
No, I
bad.
was just asking if you guys are working on something. I just like to hear what everybody's up to, or questions, or thoughts, or problems that they're having, or wins that they're doing. The whole thing.
Yeah, Parker and I had a really busy week this week for one of our properties, a property on a Port Madrid Boulevard here in Birmingham. Um, I got a chance to meet with the seller this week, went and got coffee with him and talked to him about seller financing. He wasn't entirely interested, but was like, I'm not a complete no. So his wife is an accountant as well. So that was a really good thing that we could kind of give him the seller financing tab and pass it off to him and his wife. But we finalized kind of our pro forma and LOI, and I was like, I just want to get some extra eyes on this because I also talked to some bankers about average interest rates right now, and it's a funky deal. So I don't know. I think it'd be helpful for everyone to take a look.
Cool. Like that. Who else? Anybody else working on anything? What going on? Anyone else? Right now we got Connor and Jared working on a couple things. What else?
Yeah, I went and walked a building today with a new broker. It was vacant, and he seems to be a good contact to have. He owns the brokerage, and he's got more off-market deals.
Sweet. Good deal. Well, I mean, again, that's just another great relationship right there that you can just level up on,
Yeah.
which is great news. I'll say this, Zane and I have been working as diligently, I'd say, last couple of days on just kind of our outline for, the CRE 3.0. We're always just trying to improve stuff and whatever. And the pro forma that we're going to be rolling out that you guys already have, but we're just going to improve it. It's just going to be refined. It's going to have some more, like I think I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that I've been working on a due diligence checklist for y'all. So like when you go walk a building, you guys can be more not just like the metrics of the property or like the financing and then also the physical attributes, but getting a really good understanding of when you're in, or when you're under contract, um, what actually you need to be looking for, what types of questions you need to be asking to decide is this building, going to hold up after I close it, right? Like, or is there a shit ton of deferred maintenance? Is there a bunch of issues going on? Like, whatever it is, we've been working really hard on building that out. So, Zane, you got a thought on that or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see when everybody's got a deal in the pipeline and they're trying to check off all the boxes, but a lot of times, of course, if you've never done this before, it's you don't know what exactly to check off. Um, and we just kind of made a very extensive list of things that you can go and ask the broker to make everything as efficient as possible. There's no question about kind of like, oh, did I cross all my T's and dot all my I's here?
Yeah.
Or am I missing something?
Yeah.
So with this kind of tab here, it's similar to what we just had with the request for partnership tab. And we just made it into a due diligence tab. And it's just like everything you need to do before kind of moving the ball down the field with us.
Yeah, just some like obviously these are the physical attributes that you'll have to check. And like I said, we're just building this out to where it's more condensed, it's more efficient for you guys when you're underwriting deals. But I think this will be a really great tab um, while you are underwriting, especially like I said, this deferred maintenance info, value add opportunities, just talking about the certificate of occupancy, a sprinkler system, the zoning of the property, the HVAC warranty, the age of the roof, when was it replaced, is there a warranty, are there adjacent parcels around? Just getting some more information about the actual property before getting all these and getting even what types of, the lease information, the physical, all this stuff that we talk about, but just a little bit more in depth on the actual underbelly of the deal of the property. So when you're, as you're walking in, you're under contract before you buy it, just some things that are important to discover while you're, before you buy. So a couple things like that. So we'll be rolling this out here, I don't know, next couple of weeks, and we'll update this for so you guys can have all this. So just so you know. Um, all right, well, cool. Do we want to get rolling on a deal of working on Connor, would you like to start on the project that you're working on?
Sure. Throw me to the wolves. No, I'm kidding now.
Yeah, good though. I
Yeah.
like it.
So it is a bit different than, what I think we typically look for. Parker and I found this like 2 weeks ago. Let me see if I can share my screen. It is a,
Here, I'll let you do it. Yeah,
thanks. Uh,
there you go.
Wrong thing. Let's see. Can y'all see this all right?
Yep, you're good, man. Yeah.
So it's basically a training set for electrical contractors. They test their to get their certification for the state. And it's a bit different than what we look at. It's two buildings. This front building is basically the classrooms and the offices, and then in the back right here is the warehouse where they do a lot of the actual practicing. So it's also a massive lot. There's also a fenced-in backyard here that could be used for to rent out for storage. You could also fence all this in too as a possibility. I've already spoken to the broker. He's really great. Walked the property, I think last week as well. It looked great. This is kind of what the warehouse looks like. This is what the hallways and the front office look like. Um, so it's being offered for 560 right now. Cap rate's at 8.05. Um, what else? It's 100% lease. It's a triple net lease. They've got 3 years left on their lease. And it's not a typical industrial organization, but it is a triple net lease, which is nice. They have 3% rent increases every year for the rest of their lease. Um, See how, I mean, this is a massive property here. So uh, I can kind of jump
What are
on
you
in.
offering them?
So we are offering a little under. We're looking at 510 um, with a 45-55 seller financing split. Um, and these are some of the terms that I got from the banker that I've been speaking with this week. 3-year term, 20-year AM, and a 7.5
Okay.
interest rate. I mean, Parker was sure we'd probably get a little bit better, but we thought just be safer to go a little bit
Right.
higher.
Right.
So we are looking at a senior loan of $280,500, and then getting a mortgage for nearly $230,000. We offered up to 280, and Parker told me that he'll typically pay for the closing costs, the seller, but he's got two other rental properties in town. The seller, he shared this with me at coffee yesterday, and he's like, I've got $260,000 that I need to pay off in these other mortgages that I've got on my rental properties, and then I literally just want to run off to Smith Lake. That's it. So
Cool down a little bit, Connor.
I'm sorry.
What the cash on cash is.
Oh
See
yeah,
what your debt ratios are and everything.
yeah. So our debt service is at 1.66, and then global is at 1.42.
Yeah.
Um, And then, cash float equity is fine. But up here, I know our going in cap rate is 8.82. But after we would do like a 5-year balloon for 2% interest rate, and or yeah, at a 2% interest rate. And after we'd pay it off, we'd have to get, or after the lease would be up for the triple net lease, we'd have to get them up to at least 475 per square foot, or up to market rent, which is 525. So they are severely under market rent right now.
Okay.
So looking at this now, I've built a good relationship with this guy, the seller. I've talked to him on the phone a couple times, met him for coffee. He was really candid with me and very honest with me during our walkthrough. So, you know, I don't know if this offer is too nice, or if it's not low enough, or I know we are under market, and we like to be at 10% cap rate, but we've got our debt service that looks nice. Um, but I want to run it by the group to see
Yeah. Who,
where
who,
we
who
can
who
improve.
has an opinion on this? I'd be curious to
Yeah.
hear everyone else's opinion because I've gotten a couple of thoughts. I want to
My
hear what
feelings will not be hurt. This is to improve the deal.
Yeah,
So
yeah, 100%. That's great, Connor. I appreciate your openness. Does anybody else have a thought on that? Like how you'd view that?
I have a question. So, regarding the amount that you chose for the second position mortgage, were you saying that that was specifically chosen because he was trying to pay off other debts?
yes,
Or okay, okay. And so that's for the equity that you're bringing to the table, or for the loan that you're actually going to be borrowing from the bank, right?
yes, yeah.
Okay, okay. And then a 2% rate for the second position mortgage, where did that number come from?
Parker and I just came up with 2%. It was really the number that would get these to look nice. We wanted to get a good global debt service, and to make it look nice for the banker we had been speaking to get it at least a 1.4. Um, that was really kind of what we came up with. There was really no
Okay,
strategy behind it
okay,
to
okay.
get something enticing,
Do you
really.
think that 2% to the seller, he'd agree to that? Do you think that's a market?
Uh, I'm not sure if that's market. I mean, you know, I guess like getting a mortgage is the guy who told me, he's like their average is like prime plus, and it's like 7.5 to 7.75. But I think I wrote it down in here too. Let's see. No.
The
Um,
reason I'm saying that is just thinking that instead of putting it at two, run it like when you're running your numbers, think
uh-huh.
about being like not like in a gross conservative, but like run it to where that thing is trading at 6%, especially on a second position. You can usually negotiate maybe five, but leaving it at 6%, you're going to know really where your true numbers are versus trying to. So think about it this way. This is probably some decent advice, I'd say. Again,
Okay.
not telling anybody what to do, but what's worked for me is when you're underwriting the deal, instead of trying to make the numbers work, try and make the numbers not work. Like do the opposite. So when I'm underwriting a deal, I'm trying to find a reason why not to do it. Not in like a I won't do a deal sense, but in a like, hey, if I'm going to actually do this, it's got to really these numbers got to check. So I'm trying to poke holes in my own underwriting. So instead
Yeah.
of trying to think, okay, let me just see if I can, how can I squeeze and manipulate the numbers to check the boxes? Instead, buy the deal at where it sits and then try and make the numbers not work. And then if you can
Okay.
do it that way and then reverse engineer into making the numbers work, then you've got a decent deal. But if we're just manipulating the numbers, then you got to have a couple of stars aligned just to get something across the finish line. And then if you're in a pinch where the tenant does something sideways and doesn't pay you, well, then the whole deal's screwed up, and then you're the one left holding the bag.
Okay.
Does anyone have an opinion on that?
I was going to say something similar around the second position mortgage. I mean, I've been starting off the negotiations at 5, and I'm typically a counter's coming in at 7, and we're landing around 6. So I don't know if that's kind of how you're sort of approaching it, but I always kind of start with a 5, just so I don't. I mean, I feel like I've come in it with 2, right? It's almost like I'd be afraid to get this reaction. I'm insulting them, right? So that's been my approach, and not that I've gotten a deal across the finish line, but that's at least how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
That's great, guys.
1,000%.
Thank you.
Another thing too, Connor, again, this is again not derogatory. This is just simply us going over it. When I'm looking at these going in cap rate of 8.8, right? Which isn't it's just not bad, right? It's not bad. The kicker in I bet you if you ran the numbers with like a traditional loan to value of like 75% and
Mhm.
like a traditional number, your math, the deal probably wouldn't check. Your loan
And no,
constant is probably going to be close to 9.5. So
I mean
you
that's why we really,
yeah, so
really.
it's all gets combined. So if you can underwrite the deal where it makes sense, like in a conservative approach, and I'll say this too, Zen and I were actually sitting here talking about this, not yesterday, but the day before, or yesterday. I don't even remember. They run together. But when you first are doing one of these deals, and Connor, this is a great thought for you. And a lot of the other guys that are doing their first deal like this is if you can hit a drive down the middle of the fairway, meaning that you are not trying to shape shots, you're not trying to spin the ball, and you're not trying to get cute with with anything. Instead, you say, "Look, I'm going to buy this building at a 9.5% cap rate. I'm going to bring 25%, whether it's from you, whether it's from an investor, whatever." Like, think about this hypothetically for a second. Like, you do this deal just super traditional and conservatively, right? With a local bank in your town, whatever bank it is, and you got a great tenant with a triple net lease that you understand, and they got an option, and before you close the deal they exercise it, right? So now you got 5 years left on this lease. What you've done is you've proven that you understand how to do a deal the right way, the traditional way, right? Not the right way, but like in a conservative, again, down the middle of the fairway way.
Mhm.
And then what happens is you service debt for freaking 6 months, man, 6 months. And these banks are going to be like, oh my God, this is the type of bank or the type of borrower that we need. We need somebody that knows what they're doing and they're conservative and they pay us debt service on time. Then they get a block of cash that comes in. The first person they're calling is you. And then what happens is they say, hey, Connor, can I buy you lunch? Let's just go sit down and talk about what deals you're working on right now, whatever. And then you offer something like this that's creative, where, hey, the loan to value on this thing's a little funky. The deal is a little bit lower suppressed cap rate, but this, and this, and you throw in some creativity. What that does is you first proven that you know how to do it the conservative way, because if you did this kind of more trickier way out of the gate, a red flag goes up. You're like, whoa, this guy's a tricky cat. He's trying to pull a quick one. You don't want to put money in the deal, kind of like what the initial backlash was,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I was like, I know he's not like judging me as a person, but it was more so he doesn't know me like
He
that
doesn't
to
know
where
you. He doesn't know you. Yeah.
yeah, that's a
So
great
if you did it, if you did the first one the right way, not the right way, but just a traditional way of just doing something where the bank is just super happy, and then you come up with this cute little way and this sophisticated way of buying something. Instead of the red flag going up, the sophistication flag is going to go up. Like, this dude knows what he's doing. Look at the kind of deal that this guy negotiated. Look at this fucking son of a bitch. Look at this guy. Like that's what they're going to say. They're like, oh my gosh, this guy is like so good at what he does. This is amazing. So it's a completely different way that he's going to view you if you don't go the initial crazy, again, backing into numbers, 2% on the second position mortgage kind of route out of the gate, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So
Yeah.
it's not right or wrong. Another thing that I would say, again, not like in a negative sense or anything, but if you're gonna buy, this is another like in my book, like a book, a rule of thumb is if a going in cap rate is suppressed in the single digits, the what I would consider doing is making sure that you have a way to truly increase the value. And if you go back, Connor, go back to that other page of just the overview of the building, if you don't mind, and scroll up a little bit. I want to see like the actual, like the helicopter shot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So you're looking at this. I mean, that's a pretty large parcel, I'd
Yeah.
say. Do you know what the zoning is? Is it M1? It's
I'm
probably
pretty sure it is. Yeah.
industrial. What this looks like too is if this tenant, like you said a second ago, Connor, the market is it's under rent right now. Do you know if they have options to
Joey,
renew their lease?
can you say that again?
Do you know if they have options to renew their lease?
Um, in 3 years, if they've gotten that yet?
So they got 3 years left on their lease. Do you know if after those 3 years are up, if they have an option to renew or the lease ends?
Oh, they have an option to renew. Yes,
How long is that option?
I think 180 days.
Okay, so they've got 6 months of an option. Okay. And then the lease ends after that.
Hmm.
Okay, either way, right? So what I'm getting at is if the rent is under market at where it currently exists, you can shop this space. I mean, look how much laydown yard there is. I mean, you could
Yeah.
be able to shop this to some type of decent tenant. And that other warehouse is on there too?
Yeah, this is the training center and this is the classrooms and office. It's
Oh,
a
wow.
massive property. And so this is already fenced in back here. And I was like, they don't even use it for anything. So that could be,
You
you
could
know,
probably be doing that right now. That's probably an easy way you could do that. All this rest of this land, you can negotiate in this deal and be like, hey, I'll buy the building as what you're currently asking. You negotiate with the existing tenant and say, hey, look, what I'm going to do, I'm going to build a fence right here and I'm going to offer this as a laydown yard to some trucking company. How close is it to the highway?
oh gosh, it's like right. I mean, I came off the highway from it. It's like
Yeah.
right down.
So if you're that close, so this is just the way that I'd be thinking about this. Keep the existing tenant in place. I would negotiate to say, hey, look, how about this? We'll keep the lease as it currently sits. We'll put an amendment in the lease that says you guys have the you will renew for 5 more years. So then you got them capped for 8 years at 3% bumps net. But in exchange for that, for you not to go anywhere, you fence that portion off. Like you fence this like portion right behind, which is probably looks like a decent size, maybe an acre and a half of
It,
yard space,
it's massive. It's
which
massive.
you could then go and fence that off, secure it, gravel it, grade it, and rent that space out to somebody as just lay down yard. And
Yeah.
then it goes in Birmingham, it's anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month of lay down yard per acre. So
Yeah.
you could rent that space out. So now you've got multiple tenants on the same parcel, and you bought the building as it existed, and then you found a way to extract more juice out of that deal. You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I like that idea. That's what Park and I were already thinking, but honestly expanding and making it bigger to charge more for like a, lay yard. It's a great
Yeah,
it's a
I would go and sit down. Here's what you should do is again, I'm not telling you what to do. This is just the way I'd recommend it. Especially if I would go back first, I would underwrite the deal again. I would underwrite the deal with the correct financial metrics, the 75% loan to value, the second position being at like 6%, whatever that those never spit out on an
yeah.
agreed upon price you guys came up with. It's going to be probably pretty tight. And I would
Mhm.
say something like, look, I'm not going to pay you interest for 12 months, interest free for 12. Like just come up with something crazy, especially if this guy's motivated.
Yeah.
And then you negotiate into the lease, or you then when you're under contract, you go and sit down with these tenants and offer them their option to renew is not 180 days, but rather 5 years, and they have to sign that. They have to sign that they are going to renew that. So then you got them for 8 years, and then you also say you have the right, but not the obligation, to fence that gravel, and you can rent that space out to somebody else if you, the landlord, choose and please to.
Yeah. I like that a
And then
lot.
you have all those terms set up in place before you close. And then when you go and sit back down with that banker again, Connor, you can say, hey, look, man, I know that you thought that I was a crazy person before, haha, but let me show you where my mind is and how I'm going to extract so much juice out of this thing. Check this out. This is what my game plan is. And you roll this thing out in front of him. He's going to look at you. You're going to be like the genius. You're going to be the creative genius. And he's like, wow. So basically, your debt ratio right now, as it sits, is 1.23. But once you rent that space up for 4,000 a month, your debt ratio goes up to 1.9. That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And
So
the banker liked the deal. He was like, this is a great property. And so I think he was just like, I can't make these numbers work. So that's just an even better incentive for me to rewrite this, re-underwrite this in a conservative approach
And
and
another
really,
thing too, Connor, when you sit back down with that guy, don't to sound a little sophisticated too, ask him what the price to buy the rate down is right now. What their bank is offering to buy down the rate. Because what you can do obviously is you spend a couple $1,000s, they'll wrap that into the mortgage, but your interest rate's lower. You have a
Okay.
larger amount of debt, but because you bought the interest rate down a couple hundred basis points, your monthly payment's smaller, which
Okay.
creates just more cash flow.
Cool.
So something to think there too. Sound good?
That sounds great. Guys, thank you for the feedback. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. This helps me and Parker, like,
Good.
I feel much more confident about this. And so I think Nolan and Zane, if I can redo these numbers, maybe send this over to y'all tomorrow. And if you think they look good, um, I can send it back to that banker and talk to him. And maybe we send it to Mason too, if that's interesting. Maybe, I don't know. But
Yeah, send any of those bankers. Yeah, 100%. Anybody that's on that list of contacts, 100%.
awesome. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate
Cool.
that.
Yeah, of course. That's great, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Who's next? Jared, you want to talk about your deal?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's see
Uh,
here. You can share your screen if you like what Connor did, or we can do it
yeah,
my way. What was
yeah.
that
I'll,
best?
I'll I'll share my screen and I'll
Beautiful.
just kind of start with some of the must-haves real quick, and then
Yeah.
take you through a quick overview. So, in terms of the physical stuff, um, it's going vacant. It's an owner occupant. So it's not doesn't have the nice triple net lease, 3 years, and all the escalations. Square footage is on the lower end at 9,000 square feet, but checks out in terms of ceiling heights. Got two roll up doors. It's right off Interstate 40 in that, like a major corridor going through Statesville, North Carolina, which is just north of Charlotte. Financials, the Disker 1.4, I mean, it kind of checks all these. I'll go through the financials here in just a minute. And initially, this seller was completely adamant that he was not going to sell or finance. And so I've been trying to sell them on that. I haven't talked to the actual owner. I've been working with his son because he's a little bit more open to talking about it. And I think between him and the broker, they've kind of convinced this guy that it might be worth it to get this deal done. The owner is aging. His wife is terminally ill. He's looking to get out of this property, and he wants to actually 1031 into another property for his business, which this actual property houses or stores all of their motorsports vehicle inventory. So they sell like wave runners and dirt bikes and ATVs and all kinds of stuff. So you can kind of see that in the pictures. It's an off-market deal. This one was brought to me by a broker who I've been kind of working with. I actually contacted him months ago. The guy was a complete dick, and then all of a sudden he calls me up, about a month ago and says, "Hey, you still looking for this type of space?" Based on the buy box I gave him, I said yes. He put me on this one, and essentially I did all the underwriting for it, put together an LOI, submitted that to them. He came back. We kind of counter offered back and forth a little bit here and there, but he's basically provided a counter offer that he's ready to sign. I'm just trying to evaluate whether or not I'm ready to sign, and that's kind of where we are, just high level. In terms of any questions before I just kind of take you through the financials quickly?
No, man, this is great. I'm loving this. I
All
like
right.
that you got it on your own Excel too. That's badass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck
All
yeah.
right. So, although it's going vacant, the broker, he's like plugged into this area, knows the previous tenants, knows these tenants who are now the owners. He has got, he's doing a little bit of pre-leasing of this space, has got another motorcycle shop that's interested in coming in. It's either that or there's a foundation repair company. He just can't show them the inside of the property. But right now, we're getting what he's quoting is about $11 a square foot. So I underwrote it at 1050. The initial asking price 975. My offer price right now, which he's sort of signal he's accepting, is 850,
Let's
which
go.
puts us at an 11.1 cap rate. And then in terms of the financing, I've been talking to some lenders. I'm just kind of sticking with our general assumptions, and we'll see what happens. My guess is I'll be closer to a 7.5% rate
Yeah.
based on my conversation, 75%. What I asked him to do was I wanted him to sell. I wanted him to sell or finance the other 25%. At this point, he's agreed to finance 15% and he wants 10% down. So that's what I have not agreed to at this point. But he's saying, hey, listen, I want you to have a little skin in the game. But I also need the cash because I want to go. I want enough of the cash to go and do this 1031 exchange.
Interesting.
Quickly, again, net operating income assumptions are around
Before you go,
95.
Jared, hey, before you
Yeah,
get, I want to give you like a thought here as a great
yeah,
rebuttal to that guy when he says, I want you to have a little bit of skin in the game. As, um, first of all, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me when a seller is trying to tell you what to do. Nobody
mm-hmm.
should ever tell you what to do. Nobody tells me what to do, first of all. So that's one thing. But I would
Yeah,
say this, I'd say, go back to this guy. Well, he goes, I want you to have some skin in the game. I'm like, well, how about that $580,000 check that I'm writing you, that the debt that I'm personally guaranteeing?
right. That's
So
what I
it's not
brought up
up
to
to you,
them.
guy. It's up to me and what we agree on,
Yeah, I
Like,
told him, I'd say, hey, listen, I've got skin in the game.
yeah,
I'm
dude.
personally guaranteeing not just the first mortgage, but
Yeah.
the second as well, the second position.
Like,
So we've got to do it all. So I did rebut with that.
good,
Again,
good.
I think this guy, honestly, I think just due to his age, the situation with his wife, like I think he's going to be willing to negotiate, but I think he needs enough cash to like fully get out of this thing and set things up for his son for success going forward, because this is kind of going to be an expansion to take on more space to store all their inventory.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, I
All
mean, it
right.
sounds like it could be a decent opportunity, man.
Yeah, it is. It would require 10% equity, which is why I'd be looking for a partnership. And we built into the LOI. I talked to Zane about this, and he shared a little bit of the LOI language around it. Essentially, we can pre-lease it during the due diligence period. If we don't get a signed triple net at 10.5 bucks a square foot, we can pull out. We don't even have to go to closing, and he can take other offers if he wants it during that
Yep.
period, essentially. And
Yep.
so we got a little bit creative on the seller financing piece. So he's saying 15%. He wants 2 years, a balloon in 2 years, and I said, look, we can't do 2 years. I wanted 5. So we kind of agreed on this 2.5 year period where the first 6 months we'll do interest only. For some reason, he wants to do principal and interest the next 2 years, which is like, it's nominal. It doesn't really change the numbers.
Right.
So I'm like, fine, I'll throw him that bone. But he does want a balloon at the end of that 2.5 year period. So that's something else I'm talking to the lender about their appetite for, refinancing in a, kind of 2 to 3 year period.
I would say this too in the LOI, make him pay the leasing commissions.
Okay.
Just throw that in there too.
Yeah.
Just like,
Okay.
you're going to lease the space because that's not going to be cheap, right? Like if you got
It's
how
like
many square feet?
$22,000.
Yeah, it's like 22 grand, right? And
Yeah.
if you make him pay the sales and the leasing commission while you're under contract,
Mm-hmm.
just to see if he'll balk.
Yeah.
And then again, it's like the never split the difference and just the how to just juice it out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And the kicker is this is like, if we can get a signed LOI, this broker he's got these 2 potential tenants he's ready to show.
Nice.
And again, no guarantees, but it's looking very favorable at this point.
Do this, Jared. Scroll over to the overview tab if you don't mind.
Sorry, you guys don't need to see my calendar.
um, just curious to know what the intrinsic value of the building will be when it's leased, right? I mean, that's pretty strong right there, man.
Yeah.
I would
1.3.
get that closer to I would run that depending upon the value or the strength of the tenant, maybe closer to 8 or probably like 8.
Like an 8 cap rate?
Yeah, like an 8 cap rate, especially if it's a 5-year lease. If it's a 5-year lease and with a decent credit tenant, you got basically almost a $1.2 million building. So you're buying it at
850.
I mean, that's a strong deal. Immediately $350,000 of equity,
Right. Yeah. And if you look over here, so at an 8,
refi,
yeah, you could refi and cash out. You'd have, 400,000. So I mean, all the numbers are checking out. It really comes down to getting this leased up. And again, if we've written it into the LOI that we got to do that during the due diligence, there's not a ton of risk. So I felt more comfortable with that, but that's kind of where we are.
Well, it looks good to me. One thing that I would do too, on top of this is like you're saying, like, um, so I've done things a couple different ways, and there's, again, Zan and I, Zan and I spend a lot of time together. We're always like trying to just come up with new ways how we can, like, just do stuff, do deals. And usually the path to syndicate is raise capital, give up equity, and get a slice of profit share, or the 50-50 model, which is you give your investor, they put up all the money, you give them all the cash flow until their principal's repaid. That's kind of the way that I've do it. That's been binary for me,
Mm-hmm.
without having the seller leave money in the deal. The third option that you can consider doing, Jared, if you don't mind going back to your just pro forma really quick,
Yeah.
and then scroll down to what capital that you need to inject, which is that like 150,000 or
Yeah.
$140,000. What I've done in the past is, even if the seller doesn't want to leave money in the deal, consider having like like what I did actually on a building that I purchased. I still own it. When I bought this, it was a smaller one. It was like 7,500 feet in Birmingham. Bought it for like 350,000 bucks. I borrowed money from another investor that just wanted a return. He didn't want to be in the investment business. He just wanted to be like on the debt side.
Mm-hmm.
Paid him 10% interest on his money, and he was a bridge loan for me. So I borrowed the 80 or 75% from the bank. The sell
Mm-hmm.
this guy, or this guy brought the other whatever, it was 90,000 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I just paid him an interest rate for like 24 months. And then I actually refinanced all of his equity out just recently.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
really? How long
that
did you
might
hold
be
it?
another move you could do, where you just use him as a bridge, but that allows you to keep 100% of the equity and the ownership, which is
Mm-hmm.
really the key.
Okay.
And finding those investors that might have that appetite. Maybe some guy that has more money than God is like, hey, I'll take 10, 12%, whatever. And that's
Yeah.
more valuable to him than trying to get cute and be in the ownership
Being
business.
part of the ownership. Yeah.
Yeah. And where
Yep.
he has fluctuations of profit and loss. Some
Yeah.
people just want a stream of income. So
Right.
it's that give and take. So maybe that's another option for you too, where you're like, dude, I've got some serious upside here, and I really don't want to give up. I really don't want to give up all this ownership just for 150 grand, when I know I've got 400 plus $1,000 of immediate equity. So
Mm-hmm.
finding just another partner that might want to show up with some capital, say, look, let me borrow your money for 18 months at 10%. I'll balloon you out, or 2.5 years, I'll balloon you out.
Yep.
After you've raised the rents, you've done the whole song and dance. You take a new one first position mortgage that pays off your seller, and it pays off your or I guess it would pay off your private lender too. And then you've got one mortgage with one bank, and you still got no money in the deal, and you're cash flowing.
Yeah. Was that like a hard money lender, or is it a different type of lender?
This guy was candidly, he was a dentist. He's a dentist in Birmingham, and believe it or not, he's my dentist. Yeah, we were talking. He had his hands in my mouth, which sounds really weird. And we were
Mm-hmm.
just kind of talking, and he's like this and that. And I was like, dude, I got some stuff that I'm working on. He's like, well, what do you mean? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, let me just send something to you. And he just wrote his email down on like a piece of paper. And I just like shot him some stuff. We got on the phone, and he's like, this sounds really cool. I like to learn more about this. And yeah, it was like almost immediate. Like I said, you got good collateral, you're in second position, but if push came to shove and I got abducted, they'd auction it off. This building's worth $500,000. So
Yeah.
you,
I
you got
do I do have one or two guys that I've been networking with that want to invest, but they're not going to be able to get to the 140. So I may have to find a lender, or I don't know, maybe we run it through syndication. I just I'm
Well, do that,
open
Jared. Hang on,
to how we
listen,
do it. Yeah.
listen though. Here's my, again. Don't take this like I'm not telling anybody what to do. This is a recommendation. What I've done in the past is calling, because Connor's on here, all of my dad's buddies that have, my dad's in his 60s, my parents, and they've got a lot of equity in their house up in Indiana. Like everybody my parents' age, for the most part, that's an upstanding citizen, probably, unless they're crazy, is getting close to paying their house off. And They've paid their house for 30 years. Now they're about to make their last mortgage payment. I know 50 people that literally don't have a mortgage and they could get a home equity line of credit for 500,000.
Yeah.
And it's probably better if you and I'll tell you this too. I've said this in the past. When you if someone calls me personally, like a broker calls me and says, "Hey, I was looking at a building and it made me think about you," it immediately gives me a dopamine hit where I'm like, "Hey, I was in somebody's mind and they thought about me enough to call me."
Mhm.
You hit them with like, "Hey, man, I was just looking at this property and I know that you just did X, Y, and Z. It made me think about you, and I just wanted to offer that this is a project I'm working on. If you have interest in maybe participating and getting a double-digit rate of return." You don't have
Yeah.
to mention anything about the details. You don't have to like get into the weeds on like the metrics and the ratios, but just like it made me think of you. It made me think of you. I know that you have appetite for some investment. This is an opportunity I'm looking at, has a double-digit rate of return. I can send you some info. And they're
Yeah.
going to immediately be like, "Oh my God, man, Jared, thank you for thinking of me, man." Like that's how I respond at least.
Yeah.
And,
No, I appreciate that.
you know,
Can I
like that.
share one thing? I'll
Yeah,
say this,
of course.
and I'm completely open to that. I think, and here's how I feel, and I think a lot of people probably on the phone feel similarly. Even if I, even if I, found all the equity or the investors or the lending that I needed to, somehow I feel like I've got to have you and Nolan involved, if nothing more than to be involved in this process. Like going through this the first time, right? You kind of think you know what you need to know, but there's so much out there that you don't.
Yeah,
So I would want to figure out a way, whatever that looks like. I'd have to have like, even if it's not financial partnership, I'd want some partnership from you and or Zane.
sure.
Just again, sometimes you just need those, a little bit of a security to go through this process because you've done it, right? And I don't know how other people on the phone feel, but I would never sign up for this if I didn't have you and Zane in my corner.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
that's what I would say that's what we're here for, I'd say, is especially once all the terms are kind of agreed on like that, it's like bring it on. I'll be driving to North Carolina to take a peek at this bad boy and drink some North Carolina beer.
we got pretty good wine country here too. So
Wine country, there we go. Yeah. I see that Bruce got something on his mind, man. What's going on?
I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yeah, man.
I just wanted to ask you, when you talked about that bridge loan that you used for 24 months, um, would you try to structure something like that, just a flat 10% or whatever the percentage is for that amount of money, even though it goes 2 years, or is that an annualized?
I think I was paying him, it was like I borrowed $90,000, so 90,000 times 10, oops, times 10.1. I was paying him 750 bucks a month. And it was simple interest only. So there was no principal. And at the end of the 24 months, I ballooned him out. Because I knew
Okay.
that it got reappraised for like 540, like back in October.
Okay.
So I got a new
So,
loan. I had a first loan of like 265. I got a second position loan essentially from this guy for like 90 grand because I had to do a little bit of rehab. And then I just got a new loan essentially for like 400 bucks or 400,000 bucks. So I paid off my
oh,
first loan and my second loan, and then I put a little bit of money in my pocket, but now it cash flows like 1,000 bucks a month or something like that, something cheesy.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes
Is that
sense
what you're
because,
asking just on the terms of the debt?
yeah, if it was, because if you borrow $90,000 at 10% and you pay it off in 2 years, you're only paying 10% on it. But if you're annualizing it, doesn't that work out different if you're paying them 10% a year, you know, annualized,
Yeah,
then it works.
crazy cute with him, to be honest with you, Bruce. I wasn't again, he was a our agreement on our second mortgage was drafted by an attorney, of course, but I was like, look, I'm gonna pay you 9,000 bucks in year one, and then I'm gonna pay you 9,000 bucks in year two, and then I'm gonna pay you back your 90,000 at the end of the 24 months. That was like our verbal agreement. And so I just didn't get into like the weeds of like, you
Yeah.
know, monthly and quarterly compounding negative interest. And I just was like, look, this is what I'm doing. He's like, that's better than what I'm getting in my money market. And I like to have a little bit of skin if you got abducted by aliens so I could, foreclose on you. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
it's better than what I'm getting right now.
Yeah.
Especially when you got more money than God as a dentist. It's like, we can afford to take risk like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, 100%. Anything else on that, Jared? Does anybody else have a thought or question on Jared's deal right there? I want to make sure that I'm like, you know, encompassing everybody's you know, have Jared, have you spoken with any lenders on this? Has anybody else gotten froggy with you on it?
Just verbally, two of my lenders I've been kind of staying in touch with. In fact, I was on the phone with one of them again today, just verbally kind of going through the kind of the terms and yeah, what we'd be looking to borrow. And they're like, please send it to me. We're in this business. I think
Right.
things are starting to pick up for them. At least I was getting the sense. But he was really eager to see a proposal.
Well, what I would do too is I would, especially if you've already sent him, I'm guessing that you might have already sent him your financials and tax returns and everything. Because what I would try and do is I try and send that to three different guys, so that
Hmm.
way you can start to tether and play back and forth some debt against each other.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
because I just got the phone with my banker earlier. He called me. He's like, "Hey, what's the latest on this one deal?" And I was like, "He goes, he's going down to the Cayman Islands. He's like, I'm going down to the Cayman. I need you to call me if something goes sideways. I'll make sure that we get this deal." And so I'm gonna call my other banker and be like, "Hey, where are you on my term sheet, buddy?" uh, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
kind of playing them against each other. I just think it's a great move going back and forth like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely want to solicit this to at least three lenders, maybe more, just to see what comes back. But again, I haven't gotten this far down the road yet. I've only kind of developed a relationship with them, and I have, you know, tried to get on file with all of them with all the tax and personal information. So at least some of that work is done. It's just a matter like I'm trying to put the final touches on this proposal for financing and then get that over to them and just get a reaction.
Well, the good news is too, is like what you're presenting them is probably a whole lot better than probably how a lot of other people send them stuff. So,
Yeah. Well, they
um,
specifically said they're looking for industrial assets to lend on. Like I
yeah.
think right now that and maybe some of this flex or even self storage, but they're kind of soured on like multifamily
Okay.
from what
I
I
feel
can
like
gather.
that's just kind of where it's like this little teeter totter back and forth. Like
Yeah.
everybody's bothered by multifamily, and then it's office, and then office is cold, and then it's this. It's like this industrial stuff is I don't know, man. I just don't see it going away. I've got two guys right now that are fighting over this one building I got, and I'm just trying to see who wants to like blink first. Like I
Hmm.
keep raising the price. Like I raised the price on this guy another 50,000. He's like, I didn't even blink at it. So I'm like, I left money on the table on that. So I'm gonna go back to the other guy and say, hey, this all and just like see what happens. Like see what
Nice.
happens, you know. I don't see this type of building like with that lighting, that type of it's just not going away. It's just not going away.
Yeah.
It's expensive to build right now. So you got a great asset, especially when a seller wants to get creative with you.
Hmm.
So 100%. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that when you hear back from that seller and some bank terms, and then we can really start moving the ball down the field there.
All right. Sounds good.
Cool. Anybody else working on anything else good, man? Make sure I'm hitting all the boxes here. Let's see. Um, so
Yeah, hey Nolan, this is Brett. Hey, I'm working on that Lansing deal still, just trying to go through those questions and work with lenders to see if we
I'm
can
seeing a
make
text
something
right now.
happen.
Man, I'm sorry, Brett. I've got like 500 messages. I apologize. I'm looking at it right now. I'm seeing it. The um the Oakland Avenue
840
Lansing
Oakland, yeah,
property. Yeah, what was your
yeah,
let me we kind of went over that a little bit
yeah.
last week on the last call. Let me see here.
Yeah, I
just
wasn't able to join that. So I was talking with Adam, and he was saying you guys were discussing it. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to join.
no,
But
that's okay. We didn't share anything that was improper or anything.
okay, no, that's fine.
So so what Brett's working on right now is this is a pretty cool project. You don't mind me sharing this, do you, Brett?
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay,
good.
cool.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, Pretty cool little site, which we kind of went over last week. Pretty large facility actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is pretty cool. I mean, especially if you've got a good tenant, which I didn't know much about these guys, but they're pretty strong, right? I mean, they got a pretty good
yeah,
like corporation going on.
yeah. They have about 80 locations nationwide, so they're pretty big. I mean, obviously their lease currently is until 2030, and then they got a 5-year option. And Yeah, I think if we were to lease it to them, or let's say sign the lease, if we were to purchase it, we would maybe request the backing of the rest of the organization nationwide. So I think that would be something that we
I'd be
stipulate in there.
curious. Have you? I think you said that you had not been in the building yet from our
Correct. No,
text
and
from our
it's
emails.
about a couple hours away, so it's a little bit more
Oh shit,
difficult to
yeah,
get to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you gotten a chance to get your eyes on the inside? The
I mean, just from the pictures that I saw, um, that's
yeah.
about it. Yeah,
Could be worse. I mean, though it's the same thing like Zan and I were talking the other day. The inspector is always going to find something wrong with anything because if they don't, then they're not doing their job, right? Same thing with
exactly.
like any city, any official, any government. Uncle Sam, they're parasites. That's what they do. They got to figure out something that's wrong with something. Um,
Yeah,
but
the inspection report said, the roof is good or replace dates of 2029. So,
yeah.
like I said in my email, I mean, I would definitely get a second opinion on that. But, one of my questions back to you was, I haven't obviously been there and I haven't taken a contractor there, but, from your perspective, I guess in Birmingham, that size of building, what does it cost to repair that or replace that roof?
Well, again, the first thing that I'd say, and I tell my I got a big building. For those that were at the event last September, I got a big one in Tarrant. It's huge. It's like 70,000 square feet. And there's a little bit of a leak in it right now. My tenant, he doesn't call me all the time. He's like, hey, it got on our crane or whatever. I was like, well, come to work with an umbrella. Like, I ain't replacing your roof, guy. And so, but I will repair it. I will throw some tar on it. I'll get cute with it. I
Sure.
mean, this thing's totally depreciated at this point. Like it's got a depreciable like timeline like anything else. And
Yeah.
call my insurance guy and I was like, "Can you write me a check for this?" He's like, "Dude, that thing's like 40 years old, right?" And that's why I got a good deal on the building in the first place. But
Right.
one thing that you can do on a facility now again, every part of the country is going to cost a little bit different. In Birmingham in Alabama, I got a quote for 70,000 square feet, not to replace, but to put like with a 10-year warranty, like it's like a coat, it's it's not taking off like the old metal, putting new metal, but it's like a coating that like is adhesive. It's whatever. I went to public school. I don't know. But it was like $250,000, like $250,000 on 70,000 square feet. So what I'm
Mhm.
doing, on the other hand, is I have my roof guy out there and I said, where is it the worst? Like, where is it the worst? He's like, these three spots. I said, all right, then go and replace the metal right there. And it was like $25,000. And then they also give
Okay.
you a 3-year warranty on it.
Yeah.
So um, that would be, I'm never replacing that roof. I will never replace it ever.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Like that just seems crazy to me.
That's
Like
one of
that's
the
what
questions
that
I
was my
wanted to
mentor.
get your
That's what he told
perspective.
me. Don't
Yeah,
ever
no,
replace
that's
the
good.
roof.
That's good feedback because that's something that, you have a lot more experience than I do on that sort of stuff. But yeah, um,
I'll
yeah, I
respond to
mean,
that,
this is a good
Brett.
deal.
I'll respond to that. Just don't think I'm dodging you. I'll
No,
respond to
you're
that
good.
this
I
evening.
just, yeah, the selling broker keeps hounding my broker. So he seems eager to get a counter and whatnot. And I told him I'm not, at this time, I'm not ready to budge in my original offer. So,
Have you
because
do
I
you have
kind of,
photos of the inside? There's nothing even inside. Everything's just on the outside.
Well, no, it's a records. That's a inspection report just for the roof.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
there's I there should be I should have gave you the actual like um brochure for the building, but it's a vital records control company. So all they do is store. It's like a big file cabinet essentially.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. Well,
yeah. I mean,
especially if they're going to be around for a while.
yeah, I think so as well. I mean, as I mentioned, my original offer, just because of their asking price, was pretty close to all of our key metrics, right? DSCR, cap rate, et cetera. So I didn't really have a lot to move there, but the guy came down 275,000 from the asking price,
All right.
which is good. But yeah, he again, I like I said, I haven't countered or anything just because I'm not at a position that I would, especially without your feedback.
Yeah.
Um, but I think my next step is, I mean, I've talked to a bunch of lenders to kind of just get interest rates and things. So everything looks good based upon my underwriting. Um, so I think we're okay there. I'll have to get some term sheets and stuff, but that's, I think, my next step. Um, so
Maybe that might be a move then too, is like start moving the ball down the field with some lenders. Say, hey, I'm about to, not so much get a term sheet, but just get those lenders familiar with you as the borrower. And then once you guys do come to terms on that deal, then we can pop it and move quickly.
yeah, like I said, I've been in contact with the lenders already. I haven't sent them any of my financials as of yet. So that would be the next step. But I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't think
I've,
that'd be a bad move. I don't think that'd be a bad move, especially when you guys get in person together. Just go get a coffee, kind of like what Connor was doing with that seller. Just like getting in person, say, hey, look, we want to do this deal. You need to financially underwrite me first. Here's my information. I'll send it to you this afternoon. And then you just got another guy, little bolt in your chamber.
yeah, yeah.
So. All right, we're coming to the end of our window, everyone. I appreciate everyone making it on. I will upload this to YouTube in case anyone wants to rewatch this. But um, Connor and Jared and Brett, appreciate you guys sharing, and of course, Bruce, thank you for the questions and everything. I appreciate everyone making it on. Next week's call is going to be on Monday, not on Tuesday. It's on Monday, I believe, at 6 p.m. Right? Yeah, Monday at 6 p.m. Central. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you. Hopefully, everyone's still making the moves and decisions. Again, Jared and Connor and Brett, I'll get back to you this evening when I get back home, and then y'all just keep working those deals and let us know what the situation is, and we can start piecing something together. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Cool.
Good.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
everyone. Thanks for making it. Talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for making it. Bye.
Bye.